WV Uncommon Place. This podcast is a variety podcast that houses numerous series to cover mental health, empowerment, podcast framework, and various intimate theories to get to know the hosts. Along with occasional movies reviews and dives in pop culture with our event podcast episode. The Uncommon Place digs into bringing guests on that stories don't fit the mold and are very different. WV stands for the great state of West Virginia, and every quarter we cover something in West Virginia. Stacey and myself, JR, are your hosts, so please come along for this venture to our Uncommon Place.
Good morning, good afternoon, good night to some people if you're watching by video, if you're listening right now. Um, Here's one thing that happens, and then I'm the host, JR, and you heard all that other extra intro. This is one thing that happened in life with me. On July 13th, I turned 40 years old, and that puts me in a weird demographic of people. But growing up, we went outside, we played, we had video games, we had different things that gave us type of stimulation. We had footprints in watching TV, listening to radio, reading books, but we didn't have a deep digital habit or footprint or a digital overstimulation probably until the mid 90s when we all had Netscape, AOL, and everything that tied us into the internet. Basically, when the internet became very popular. So, today I have a guest with me that has a clinical background that will work with this theme, and she has an expertise that you all will find amazing in this episode, and you will find her very enjoyable, and she will help us in context to figure out some ways to help us with some of these habits. Her name is Dr. Stephanie Mazer, and I'm glad to have you on the show. So could you please tell us a little bit about yourself real fast?
Hi, JR. Thank you for inviting me on the show. So, I'm a licensed psychologist in Wellington, Florida. I'm also a member of PsyPact, which means I can provide telehealth, telepsychology services in 42 states. I primarily work with relationships and anxiety. Those are
Okay,
my
okay.
areas of
All right,
specialty.
so relationship and anxiety. So you help with the boundaries and structures that people need to build.
Absolutely.
Now, on a side note, real quick, this is just about me, real quick. Um, my question before we go anywhere in this topic is in making boundaries, because this is something that will help everybody when we get deeper into some of this and we go other ways. What would you say is a key identifier that you need to make boundaries?
A key identifier that you need to make boundaries.
Yes, ma'am.
So, can you ask me more about that? Key identifiers, something that
Sure.
intrinsically
So,
tells
so
you that
we'll
you
go a
need
little
more
bit deeper.
boundaries?
Yeah, I'll go a little bit deeper with this or elaborate a little bit better. So
Yes,
say
please.
like you have a relationship with people, friendships. We won't go into working relationship, but like you have friendships with certain people. Certain people push you a certain way, like they leverage you to do things that they want
Okay.
to do. And then another type friend, you have, certain type of things. You know how to put the brakes on with them. How do you set, I mean, what are like, how do you like know that you need to set boundaries with certain people? Like, what are identifiers in relationships? Because that's one thing that's hard for people. Because I'm going to tell you, at 40 now, it took me until my 30s to set healthy boundaries with people.
Sure, sure. So that could be a whole other episode. But to tie it into the show and today's topic, do you want me to kind of go there with
Or
it?
no, you can generalize this because this is something I personally want because this is going to tie into people using your services also. So,
Oh, okay. So everybody needs to first start with some self-awareness about what feels comfortable to them. Some people grow up in families where boundaries are not respected. Boundaries are very loose. And so some people don't sort of grow up learning what healthy boundaries are for themselves or for other people. So they don't really know how to set boundaries for themselves or to respect other people's boundaries or one or the other. Um, Other people have different experiences growing up and have a different understanding of boundaries. So it's a very individual, unique process for each person to learn about their boundaries and learn about respecting other people's boundaries.
okay, now how can people get tied into you so that they can get your services to help with a situation like that?
Sure. So you can go to my website, drstephaniemazer.com, Stephanie with an F, not a PH, and you can book a session right online.
Okay, okay, I like that, and thank you for that. Because
Sure.
so many people I see in my generation and in our generation is they have this a house is not a home syndrome, as we call it.
A
They
house
grew up
is
in a
not a
place
home.
without love, and I know that you could help them there. And we will have to do another episode because I think we can go deeper on that
Sure.
level somewhere. Now we're here to talk about digital habits, mental health, and overstimulation. Now,
Mhm.
before we dive into that, I need you to do one more thing. Your company is called MindWise Inc., correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Could you give us some detail about this company and why it came about?
So I have diversified interests and passions and pursuits, and so it's a culmination of years of sort of spreading myself thin, and now I'm sort of offering everything under one umbrella.
Okay, I like the idea of that. So basically, you had one of those boards up and you had this, that, and that, like a vision board almost.
Well, no, I've had several different businesses and different roles in different businesses. I have a diverse background, different passions, different areas of expertise. And so this was sort of an integration of all of it.
Okay, I
So if
like
you go to
that.
my website, you can see that I work with athletes, I work with people and horses. But at the foundation of all of my work is this emphasis and curiosity and pursuit of knowledge in areas of anxiety and relationships.
Okay, okay. Now you work with many clients navigating stress, identity, burnout, and modern life pressures. How have you seen the digital culture begin to shape and intensify these struggles? Because me and you growing up, the worst thing we had to do was look in the mirror.
Sure.
And now you have digital eyes on you. So, what are your thoughts on that?
So people bring up their relationship with apps, screens, internet technology in different ways in different sessions, and I certainly notice themes or identifiers that are linked. I would say in my practice, where it sort of bring lends itself to the session the most, and where homework between session comes in, is really working with couples. You wouldn't believe the impact that technology and technology habits have on relationships and marriages. When people are sort of disconnecting from themselves and as a result disconnecting from the people around them, they can get lost in technology, and that can have an impact on their partner that they may not even be aware of because they're kind of getting lost scrolling, going from one video to the next, one post to the next. So that's where digital habits show up in my sessions, where I can sort of intervene in an impactful way, help bring awareness to people and how it's really impacting their relationships.
Okay, and I get that because sort of like how, on social media, I'm not saying that anybody makes a facade, but I'm going to say it like this: it's an augmented reality, basically.
Mhm.
Because I've even experienced it. I just got married this past October, but I noticed that.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I noticed that like with my podcast persona, and I hate to say that, we do things, all everywhere, and our biggest events like in Orlando, for instance. So I go Orlando, Tampa. I do basically Central Florida in 2 weeks, like just traveling and doing these things.
Mhm.
And I never feel like a celebrity or anything because I'm just a podcaster. But I noticed that like when we post, me and my wife post pictures certain places, and the demographics that listen to the show and then the other show that I do with her, sometimes I do get caught up in the attention, not in a bad way, because I know how to set boundaries. Like I told you, around 30, I set
Mhm.
this up. But sometimes the attention, like people will be like, oh, you're going to eat at this mom and pop restaurant, or, like for instance, I'll just do a little side note. There's a thing called Gators Dockside that's between, like I told you, Jacksonville and Gainesville. That's the area I like to go through in Florida.
Mhm.
And we go to those restaurants and people recognize me because I've posted this, and that. And
Mhm.
people have not stopped for an autograph, but they're like, hey, you got a podcast, don't you? Or something like that. And sometimes I get a little airhead about it. And Stacy, my co-host, she's level about things. So sometimes I get losing sight of my reality to that. So that's the one stressor I have with it. Now, um, you deal with a lot of mental health professionals that help people also with this issue. What do you believe is a challenge that people like outside of the help, like the people don't realize that they're facing? Because me personally, like, where I brought up the point about the mirror, I always see social media as a digital mirror. And with it being a digital mirror, what you send out or project is not always what bounces back. And that bounce back is probably what makes a discord or messes things up, between people. So what do you think people when they're dealing with people like you, like mental health professionals, um we should come to a realization about like that we're missing, that we're not thinking about? Like what is something that basically, I'll switch the question back around. Um what digital challenges do you think people like that we just don't see, like that we're not grasping?
Sure, sure. Okay, so I like to look at things in terms of goals and
Okay.
motivation. Okay, so everybody sets goals and has intentions, or if they don't, it's a good idea too. That's always a healthy thing to strive towards goals, work towards goals, and assess your motivation in the different objectives that help you reach those goals. When you get on an app, um, sometimes the intention is not so much goal driven. Our brains are literally getting hijacked. Okay. So we might say, oh, I need to buy something. Okay. I need to buy a lamp, if you will. Okay.
Okay.
Next thing you know, 3 hours have gone by. And maybe you did buy that lamp, maybe you didn't, and maybe you acquired several other items, maybe you didn't, but maybe your mind acquired content that you had no intention of acquiring. So that's where we get lost. Okay. So dopamine plays a role in motivation and reward. So in if you think of a slot machine, okay, you go to a casino, you sit down, you're playing a slot machine. There's what we call intermittent reinforcement. So it's a variable ratio, meaning you don't know when that reward is coming. But when it comes, we like it. We like it. So we're going to keep chasing that reward, if you will. So we're now motivated by an algorithm. So the people who are creating the content and these apps, they're really smart. These are business enterprises, and there are things called dark patterns where our behavior is studied, and the goal for the company or the app or the business is to keep people engaged.
Okay.
So awareness is the first step into understanding, this framework that you're sort of haphazardly walking into because you want to buy a lamp, so so to speak.
So my thing here too would be, it's almost sort of like, I'm not going to say the word addiction, but it kind of forms a
Yeah.
habit.
Yes.
And that habit,
It's the same neurochemistry that we're talking about with gambling, shopping, any compulsive behavior. So we're not necessarily introducing foreign substances into the body or substances that our body already produces that's impacting the production, but we are hijacking those same neuropathways and inducing the release of dopamine.
okay, so and then some people beyond the shopping, it's the thrill of being their pictures being liked on Instagram or somewhere like that. And I know sometimes that type of stuff, even to me, sometimes is a little intoxicating. Like when someone famous, like something that I've done, I'm like, whoa, how did I get on their radar? And then I look at my content and sometimes, well, actually, I overanalyze sometimes, so I can definitely um, get that. Now, from your clinical perspective, what's happening in the brain when people get this dopamine buzz? Like, what's happening beyond? Because you spoke a little bit about it, but like, what's happening? Um, like, not so much like, well, I can actually tie it into buying because when you get on Amazon, it's like going shopping in real life. Something goes one way, like you said, and goes this way, that way. With that little dopamine buzz, like, what, what keeps that something that we keep coming back to? Like that, I guess that's my question. What keeps us coming back to
Well,
that?
when the dopamine is released, it feels good. And so it becomes a feedback loop. So after the dopamine gets released, and wow, that felt good. And presumably a lot of times it's happening unconsciously. Okay, I need to go back to that behavior when I'm not feeling so good. So when I'm not feeling so good, this is going to help me feel better. And a lot of people aren't aware of that negative feedback loop.
Okay, and I get that because that kind of like it makes sense because I really it's just like riding a bike. It's something that's going to keep going because it's almost an automation in your body basically.
Mhm.
Okay, I get that. Now, what are certain online behaviors that you feel leave people flat and drained afterwards? Like, is it a specific or is it or could it be around?
I think it's individual for each person and each app and each relationship between each person and each app. I will say that something that occurs with clients of mine who are feeling lonely or are single and wanting to date is these dating apps. So a lot of times people will have that experience of attention and also confusing these dopamine releases with intimacy. So it might feel like an intimate connection when really it's the role of dopamine, and that can leave clients feeling even worse.
Okay, and I get that because I have some friends that are still in the dating pool.
Hmm.
Yeah, okay. And with a format change, it kind of messes them up. All right, now my next thing, and this is where it gets crazy with the screen time. Why is it so hard for people to disconnect even though they know they need a break?
Well, like I said, it's like sitting at the slot machine. You're wanting that reward. And so if you've already invested so much time in the app and you haven't gotten that reward yet, you're invested in that. You want that reward.
So emotional dependency develops too. And
Emotional dependency. I
well,
think that the wanting that dopamine hit, which it's not like I'm like, oh, I need that dopamine hit. I'm going to go on the internet. I'm going to go on my phone. But somehow people end up scrolling and they're not satisfied, and it's very hard to put the phone down until they get that dopamine release.
okay, okay.
Does that make sense? Did
Yes,
that
it
answer your
does.
question?
It
Okay.
does make definitely a lot of sense because I'm just thinking about the patterns of just anybody like, like you said, if you structure your day out, like some people, my day usually starts at 5 a.m. So from 5 a.m. to 8 o'clock, I'm eating breakfast. I don't touch anything, but I know it sounds weird. It's not, it's emails. Like if I get a certain email, it can change the mood or mode of
Okay.
my day.
Okay. So something else that is thought provoking for me is when we are engaged in technology, we might be only using one or two senses. So certainly visual,
Okay, yes.
perhaps visual and auditory. So if we're only using one or two senses, we're not using all of our senses. And this is sort of goes hand in hand with getting disconnected from ourselves. And when we're disconnected from ourselves, we aren't making mindful, thoughtful, conscious decisions. We're more on autopilot, if you will. And so, one of the sort of antidotes to this experience is really getting back to your senses, engaging your senses, going for a walk on the grass barefoot, um, engaging your olfactory senses, smelling some nice lavender or some nice incense, taking a warm bath. So, yeah, at the premise of all of this is presence and connection. That's what we lose. We lose our presence and we become disconnected. So bringing it back to presence and connection.
Okay, so um, just going on to another side note. So, like when someone would be dealing with you in a session on a topic like this, you would like they would get in contact with you, go to your website, and set up all the necessary stuff to get in touch with you. But So during a session, this would be something that you would kind of work with. This would be something like at the very beginning you would like talk to people about and address, correct?
Sure, sure. If somebody is concerned about their relationship with technology, absolutely. Oftentimes, people may not realize the impact that technology is having on their life in different capacities, and it may come up dynamically, fluidly through the process.
And typically, like in a session, like how do you, as the clinician, figure out these things about someone? Is it usually like 5 minutes into the session, 10 minutes, or is it basically once you get the full story, that's when you're able to use your magical powers and see where you can, not necessarily dissect, but compartmentalize things and then categorize things for these people?
Okay, so I don't have any magical powers, but for everybody it's different. I try to get as much a comprehensive history and understanding of people's day-to-day life and activities. And as I become more aware, the client becomes more aware.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense there. Now, um, dealing with all this stuff and overstimulation. I notice like when I get overstimulated, the first thing that happens is I become quiet, silent,
Okay.
I move away, and sometimes the overstimulation will take me from an extreme high to an extreme low.
Okay.
And with that extreme low, it's like this. It's like I'm just like, whoa, this really bothered me. This shook me a certain way. Let me find an easy escape. Let me find something to take me away from
Okay.
the responsibility of handling the overstimulation. How do you handle a person like me?
Well, understanding what feelings are you trying to avoid and how are you trying to avoid those feelings or thoughts?
Okay.
And then going slow. We don't have to attack everything at once, even in our day-to-day life when people are feeling overstimulated, overwhelmed. Well, those are two different things. Like we're kind of, I feel like I'm sort of understanding it in the same context. Slowing down, taking one thought, one feeling at a time. If you're feeling overstimulated, then removing stimulation.
Okay. So taking that stimuli, getting rid of it, and focusing somewhere else for the moment or for a duration of time to put basically let that fall in action happen after the climax, fall in action from whatever activities got you there. Now, Um, one thing that I have a question about, like that I find with any form of attention driven methods we use on digital products, and it doesn't matter if it's just looking at a video or something like that. Um, is after we're done with everything and we're at the end of our day, what like, and I'm literally saying at the end of our day, a mental fog usually comes over people. And I know it happens to me. I don't know if it happens to you or not, but when I
Sure.
go through everything and I've gone through all the highs and lows of a day, this
Mm-hmm.
mental fog takes over a little bit before I go to sleep, or if it's dinner time to the time I go to sleep, without the activities of night, watching TV and all that stuff. Like this mental fog messes with me because like I've taken my attention and I've scattered it everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And when I scatter the attention on different little things, they pop up, and sometimes it doesn't make sense for me. Um, what would what would you tell someone that scatters their attention into too many places at once? What would you tell them would be a good coping mechanism in the evening to get rid of that mental fog?
Okay, so you're talking about sort of multitasking.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, so ironically, we are not able to multitask. We can task shift, but we're never able to sort of multitask. Um, but we can task shift. We can turn the volume up on one task, turn the volume down on and shift. Um, if at the end of the day you're exhausted, that's normal. We live busy lives, right? We live most people have long days, long hours, busy lives. That's normal. You're going to get tired, and that's okay. That's okay. It's being aware. So being strategic. Okay, this time of day, I don't think my best. Okay, I'm not going to schedule an important meeting at 7 o'clock when I know my brain isn't working as well as it might at 7 a.m., for instance.
Okay. And I like that. And you helped us there. Now, there comes a part in the show where we have to turn the tables from
Sure.
the listeners, from them to you, doctor.
Okay.
And we used to do this inside of a thing. I used to pay homage to a lady, Barbara Walters. She was journalistic integrity. She did the show 2020. You remember that? So,
Sure.
are you ready for your 2020 questions? And these are questions that you're not prepared for or anything you know anything about, but they're about you. And this is what's going to make you personable for the audience.
Okay.
All right. In your life, we all know that people have structure, but no one truly lives a structured life.
Mhm.
So, could you give us a boundary you've had to create in your life against, and I said against, technology?
Sure. Well, I think a lot of mental health professionals can relate to this. So, before there were emails and post messages and text messages, when a client would come to see you, they might call, make an appointment, come to your office, and that was their time with you. And there would be boundaries and structure around phone calls. And that would be the extent of it. If you have an emergency, call 911. I don't do sessions over the phone. Now, myself, just like other mental health professionals, we are navigating boundaries with clients with technology in the mix. So, what might seem um, culturally acceptable to a client may feel like a boundary infringement to a therapist. And so for me personally, I'm pretty clear with my clients about technology and boundaries. For prospective clients, I haven't had any issues with that coming up, but I'm pretty clear about the boundaries with technology.
Okay. All right. Now our next question is the one that sometimes people don't like to answer. This one's really gritty. Are you ready for it?
I
All
don't
right.
know, Gritty.
All right. So here's the deal. In the morning when you wake up, what is the first thing you consume in the morning?
The first thing that I consume.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not a big breakfast person, to be honest with you.
Okay.
So I may or may not eat breakfast. And I'm not a big coffee person because I'm sensitive to coffee. Um, so sometimes I might have a cup of coffee, but infrequently.
Okay. Now, that same question, but it's structured difference. And this works with with your background. Now, you told us about something that you consume in the form of drinking. What is an emotion that you consume in the morning? And I'm going to give you an example. All right, for me, my work week, and I know this sounds crazy, is only Monday through Thursday. On Fridays, I do my podcast, which podcasting is fun, but it's still a job. But I do my podcasting thing. So I know that my the first thing I consume on Fridays is I'm straightforward with the podcasting. I'm here, we're gonna do shows, we're gonna get this out of the way. So I know that the first thing on my not emotional, my informational train will be making sure I have everything set up for the show.
Mhm.
So that's the first thing I consume. I don't pick up a cell phone or anything like that. So waking up out the bed, what's the first thing you consume?
So my husband and I have a tradition. Every morning we spend 30 minutes, connecting about what our day is going to look like, what our expectations are for the day, and just connecting. So that's how we start our day.
All right, so in the beginning of your day, if I heard you correctly, you consume love,
Hmm.
acceptance,
Connection. Connection.
connection right there. So you see, you did that right there. So thank you for that. And you won't know how powerful that is until later on down the road with people, and you probably already know. Now, after you do those things, we have a a hour in the day which can be broken up into 15 minutes, right? We take time for ourselves. What is an activity you do to take time for yourself?
So I'm a huge animal person. I
Okay.
love my pets. I love my animals. So I take time out of my day to, I have this adorable conure. Um, and so I might just take her out of her cage and play with her. I have a lot of animals and pets. So spending time with my animals and pets, that's what nourishes me.
Okay. And I like that. Now, I want to tell you something. You probably didn't pay attention to it, but your smile, it got bigger. Now, the reason I ask you these things are because when people, are dealing with you, it's one thing that never gets asked to you. People will tell you and throw lots on you because you're the bearer of these things. Um, People don't actually ask, how are you? So this is a way to let people know now how you're doing before you start doing what you do in the world. So I want to thank you for that, for giving us all that information right then and there, okay?
Sure.
Because that makes it a safe place for everybody because we know that you're taking care of yourself. So the last part of this is you get to the middle of your day, right? How are you taking care of yourself by the middle of the day? Because we both know that some people's middle of the day can be 6, 8 hours, 4 hours, or 2 hours. The duration of your day is your personal business, but the halfway point of your day, what are you doing to keep the smile on your face after you've done everything you just told us? Because we know
So I'm
that
pretty
things,
self-aware. To answer your question directly, I don't really have to do anything
oh
to keep
snap.
keep me up in the middle of the day, keep my mood up. My moods are great. Like I wake up, I'm in a cheery mood. By the time 8 or 9 o'clock comes along at night, I'm exhausted. I'm a little more impatient. I'm a little more agitated. I'm a little more ready to get on the phone, get on the apps. For me, it's usually business related, but it still um, impacts my brain in the same way as if it wasn't business related. So, so because I have that awareness, I guess it's sort of built into my day. I plan the things that are the hardest in the morning, because I'm in a great mood, and I prepare for 8 o'clock at night. Probably don't want to have to show up for anybody or hold space for anyone, because at that point I'm tired.
And that's when you decompress, right?
Yes, that's when
Okay.
I decompress, and it's so I just can't show up for myself for the world. I just want to go to bed. I'm tired.
All right. And I appreciate that because that's letting us know that you don't let the weight of the world hold you down or push you down.
No, no.
And,
But by
and
midday, I'm in a great mood. That's one of, the best parts of my day. So I don't need to do anything to recharge midday.
okay, and I appreciate that. And like I said, this is just to give people a structure on how you do your thing because I know the hardest thing in your job is people don't always check up on you to see how you're doing. I mean, I know people do, but sometimes, I know you probably feel like kind of stressed like that. You're doing all this and, you know, being a person that is a barrier for people, that has to be a hard thing there. And the last thing is, um, so you've gone through and you've done your job, and we'll go day one, day 15, and day 30. Emotional exhaustion for a clinician is something that I always care to know about. How do you handle that portion? Because that's something that I don't know if it gets asked to you a lot, but a lot of people don't know that about a clinician. And I like to know that because, like I said, that's the last part of fortifies a relationship and it builds a certain level of intimacy with a client, in my opinion, because I'm like, hey, they deal with the emotions at some point like I do. Because, like I said, we all can go through the motions and have a well oiled machine. But how do you handle emotional exhaustion?
So fortunately, the way that my life has been structured, or the way that I've structured my life thus far, like I said, I have a lot of diversified interests and passions, and so I'm not seeing clients back to back all day, every day. I have I juggle a lot of different hats, a lot of different roles, and so I don't experience burnout or client exhaustion, because that's how I structure my schedule.
Right. Now, audience, I'm going to tell you something I picked up from there. Now, we've been talking about boundaries the whole time. In a nice, tight way, you just told me that you have boundaries and you have checks and balances and systems set up to take care of yourself. That
Yes.
glass can be half empty or half full, regardless. You know how to maintain it, and you have checks and balances that make that work for you. So, audience, that's one thing there that you know when you're dealing with Stephanie, Dr. Stephanie, you are getting an amazing person. So, I want to commend you on that. And the next thing I want to do is we do at the very end of the show, we kind of give you a little feedback. So, here's a feedback that I picked up from you from the pre call that we did prior to setup and everything else is this. You have a lot of fortitude. And I thank you for having the mental awareness stimulation and mental, let's give you one more. Let's just go with mental awareness to understand the surroundings and to understand that every mind can be well rounded in
Hmm.
their own perspective. So I thank you for that. That's a hard thing to do because no matter if you're a clinician or anything, we all sometimes feel that there should be a roundabout structure to what we do with the mind. You don't think that way. And I appreciate that because I know some people that we can never go on a linear expression, but some people think you can take a linear expression, go off of it or deviate and come back to it and it still all works. But you just said a moment ago, you have a well-oiled machine, but trial and error and different things like that have built and fortified a structure that works for you today. And I
Hmm.
thank you for giving that to this at the end of this episode. And I forgot one more thing. Where can people meet and greet you across the internet again?
DrStephanieMazer.com, and that's Stephanie with an F, not a PH.
Okay. Now, finishing up what I was saying, the thing is that you have enough awareness, enough mental, emotional awareness to know how to help yourself and to keep yourself going for the world. That is something that I don't even know how tight the mental ability or the mental mind works for that, but you've mastered that. So that is a power. I do want to tell you
Well,
that.
thank you.
And
Thank you.
I really appreciate that. And I thank you for talking with us about digital habits and going into a perspective of what you do also. And I want to tell you like a really big thank you because you won't know until later on, even though you do this, you've been doing this for a long time. This episode will help so many people. And like I said,
Aw.
audience, through the show notes, I will have everything to navigate you to Dr. Major and her amazing practice. And like, it's just, I don't know how the world can give you a big thank you, but I want to say this from the bottom of my heart from everybody that has ever dealt with you or has even just had a moment with you. You have a charismatic enigma.
Oh,
Charismatic
wow.
enigma is something,
Thank you.
well, no, I'm just telling you, it doesn't have to be bravado, but you have a good sell to you, not in a bad way, but in a good way. And having that and being punctual and structured like you are would make it easy for someone to talk to you.
Thank
Right.
you.
And that's something that you can't manufacture. That's something that you can't build. It's something that comes from your background. So to your family, to your husband, to all the animals, I want to give them a special thank you for making you well-rounded and shaping you into a happy person and putting a smile on your face. Like that is enough right there for us. And I thank you for talking about the things that are hurting people in digital surroundings and things like that. And audience, I want to say this last thing, and then I'm going to pass it back to you for the mission statement or the end of the show. Here's the thing, people. You have to embrace the fact that sometimes we overlook what's causing us to have feelings, to actually feel things. That is a problem in this digital world. We don't always stop or take enough time to realize that we're feeling something. And when we feel it, we don't know if it's negative or positive because we're moving through life so fast. So please, people, definitely head over to Dr. Major's website and get involved and let her help you and let her do more than help you. Let her become the friend, let her become the person that can give you guidance, support, and help you and at the same time build boundaries that will make life healthy. Because, like I said, it took me into my 30s, and I'm 40 now, so I've only had boundaries for like 10 years. So it'll be something to go there. Now, Dr. Mazer, the greatest thing that you do at the end of this show is you give the mission statement. I need the mission statement that's going to lock people into you, that's going to lock people into your message and the message you hope deliver today. The floor is yours.
So my passion is the art and science of presence and connection. And the more present we can all be, and the more connected we can all be, the less overwhelm, disconnect, um, discomfort, loneliness we can all have.
Okay, I thank you on that note. And she is the great Dr. Stephanie Mazer, and that's Stephanie with an F. And I'm JR, so we are signing off, and we're going to let that British lady take us out of here.
TikTok, where we have some great content. Facebook, LinkedIn. Hit up the merch store at oncommonplace.square.site. Join the email list from the website, and rate, subscribe, and give feedback from your favorite podcatcher. And lastly, thanks for listening, and tune into the next episode.